people who want to learn about sustainability and regeneration is that the first thing they do when they have a question is they search online. This information is very good, but in many cases doesn't apply to a specific context. So when it comes to create a regenerative project, it's very important to understand your local context and your personal context as well. So what may be good for you may not be exactly the best for me. So this place has been changing a lot. My great-grandparents' house became a family holidays house, and today it's a place to explore art, healing, to work, a place to connect with nature, to surf, to do yoga and other activities. For the future, we would like to use this project as a prototype to expand and regenerate other lands. So the idea is to use the best practices from here and apply them into other areas that need to be regenerated. Just to give you a brief introduction, when we first arrived here, this land was full of brambles. There was barely any life here. A lot of years of intense agriculture practices, use of pesticides, fertilizers, and we are now on year 4, and I want to show you a little bit about the things that are going on. On these paths, we aim to remove the brambles little by little, so we can grow other plants by using these succession principles. So the main idea is not to remove them completely, so the soil will be very exposed to the sun and to the wind, and instead we go gradually removing them. Let me show you what we've done so far in this area, which is the area that is further away from the house and from water points. So as you can see, we're growing here beautiful quercus, oak trees. We've planted some pine trees here. These pine trees are the soft pine trees. We call them pinheiros mansos. The root system grows differently than the pinheiros bravos, the hard ones. The main difference is on the root system. So these ones, instead of growing and spreading their roots to the sides, which ultimately will dry the soil, these ones grow deeper on the ground and will help us in keeping moisture, in creating structure and bringing other nutrients upwards. We implement the permaculture design principles, and just for you to give you an example, one of the principles refers to do things small and slow and observe and interact. So first we like to observe, and we observed that by having vermicompost close to the kitchen would help us a lot in reducing the amount of food scraps that we produce. Not only we are able to compost the food scraps that we create, but we also use the worms to help us in decomposing it, in creating, in fertilizing the soil, in aerating the soil roots. And on top of that, we use those worms to feed our chickens that will provide us with high protein quality eggs, and we create a circularity. So closing all these loops, it's also very important when you're designing a regenerative system. So for me, some of the biggest challenges is to shift from a tech fast-paced work environment to a nature-based flow, meaning the influence of the seasons. It's very important when we're working with regeneration so you need to respect the timings. For me, it's quite a challenge because I'm a person who likes to do a lot of things at the same time. I get distracted with the things easily, and sometimes it gets hard to find the natural rhythm of things. To also create the space for other people to embody this nature flow, it's a challenge, especially when you have a lot of people working remotely and working on a digital world. So to bridge these two worlds, it's one of my biggest challenge, but also one of the most rewarding things to do. This fig tree helps in supporting all the other younger trees around this area. We're very close to a pond, and because this tree is already so well established, we don't even water this area during the whole year. The tree gets the water from the pond with its long roots, and through the mycelium network it can share information, it can share nutrients, it can spread water throughout this whole region, which is amazing. And this is one of the reasons why it's so important for us to keep the old trees alive. So regarding the local context that we live in, Sintra, it's a place with a lot of diversity of plants. There's a very special microclimate here, and we're very lucky for the fact that we can make a lot of transplants, to prune and transplants and propagate a lot of the plants that grow naturally in here, or even other plants who have been introduced in here and they're thriving. So just to give you an example of how easy it is to create a forest, or a Miyawaki forest like the one we have, we pruned a lot of cuts from different plants around the area, and we brought them here. We put them into small pots, we let the roots grow a little bit, and then we put straight on the ground. Some of them eventually died, but the survival rate was quite high, and we are very happy with the results. We're currently dismantling this old greenhouse. I can share with you a mistake that we've done here in the past that I do not recommend you if you're starting a permaculture project or you want to build a greenhouse, which is to buy a cheap greenhouse on Amazon. And why is this? It was very convenient for the first months, but after 6 months, with the rain, with the sun, the plastic cover that was on top started deteriorating, and instead of creating here a solution for growing food, we ended up creating a problem in the soil. So we ended up having a lot of microplastics on the soil, which wasn't ideal. So yeah, it's just a small example of something not to do. We wanted a fast solution instead of implementing a slow solution, and it ended up growing a long-term problem that we're now dealing with. There are several memorable moments in this place, but there's one that was particularly important to me, and it was also a super valuable lesson, which was the moment when we created the pond. So working with water, very interesting, right? Because you really have to understand where you're gonna place your ponds. You have to understand how the water moves in the land when there's big rains. And I was very excited in creating this pond. We waited for the first rains to come. It started filling up. We put plants, and I felt that the pond needed more life. And I was thinking, wow, this pond would be great if it could have frogs. We have water, there's mosquitoes that are starting to thrive, so we need to integrate somehow frogs or attract them. And you know, I started thinking about this and I wanted to get frogs here. I was like, okay, next week I'll try to figure out a way to get some frogs in here. And suddenly, during this week, I walk to the pond, I pay attention, I start looking at the water, and I see small tadpoles in the pond. I look to the left and there was this bird drinking water from the pond. And I started realizing how important it was, the fact that I didn't intervene so much in the ecosystem, and instead I let nature play its role. So the birds eventually brought the tadpoles from other ponds where they've been drinking water, and they brought them here. And this was a very interesting moment, because then I realized, okay, this is a very valuable lesson. I have to be patient. I cannot interfere and do everything immediately. It's important to respect nature's time, because if you create the conditions, then the nature will come. And it may not come as fast as you want, but it will come in the right moment.